Okay, gonna try this again. Take 4. This is amazing. This is my red deck, my cEDH fast burn red deck. It is a burn deck. Its commander is Torbrand, Thrain of the Redfell. Says 1 and 3 pips. Says if red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead, and it's a 2/4. I'm hoping that will be my thumbnail. Kind of awesome. Anyways, so with that said, the best thing about this deck is if he's in play, everything you do basically hurts your opponents faster. Like I said, this is a 4, not a 4-player. No, you didn't hear me. This is not really a deck for 4 players. This is a deck to go one-on-one with. Kind of break it down a little bit. It does have 23 basic land, 23 basic mountains. I'm going to switch out 10 of those with snow mountains. For the main reason is I'm adding in Frostbite. It is a snow instant. And it has it pay 1 red. Frostbite deals 2 damage. But if you control 3 snow permanents, it deals 3 damage instead. So for 1, it's a shock. But if you have 3 snow lands or snow permanents in play, for 1, it does 3 damage. So it's a lightning bolt. So it's even better. Put that one down there. With that said, I do have 12 utility lands. This card and one of my artifact cards. This is a reminder that I need to buy this I think it's a $30 card. Normally do not play with proxies except for in one case. This is just a reminder so the next time I go, I either borrow the card from my friend or I actually buy the card itself. This is the only proxy I actually play with, Jeweled Lotus. Only reason why I play with it is I refuse to put this in a deck. Sorry, not going to happen. Jeweled Lotus, it's awesome. Not gonna shuffle it. And I fully expect this one to get banned in my group. So, with that said, Vulcan Pinnacle, Valakut Molten Pinnacle is a definite red source that you want to put in. It's a mountain. Comes into play. It's not a mountain, it's a land. Comes into play, does damage to your opponent if you have 5 or more land. Every time land hits, it does 1 damage. With him in play, it actually does 3 damage, so Valakut is awesome. The rest of these utility lands are like Castle Embreth, Ranup Ruins, a couple of fetches, a couple of cycling lands in case you don't need them, Command Beacon, Temple of the False Gods, Command Tower, Field of Ruins, and Ghostly Quarter, and then Seagate and Mobilize the District. You'll notice there is no Strip Mine. The only reason why there's no Strip Mine, there's also no Soul Ring, and a couple of other cards that would be awesome in this deck. My group, they play kind of a Canadian Highlander slash competitive EDH deck. They have a secondary ban list. You have your primary ban list that comes from Wizards of the Coast, but when we're doing the competitive, there's a secondary ban list. And actually, Soul Ring is not on it. Neither is I can't remember the name of that darn land that I absolutely hate. But anyways, there's quite a few other extra cards. So you're going to notice that there's not a big it's not an expensive deck to build, but you're also going to see that there's some cards you're going to be like, well, what about this one? It's probably because it's on the banned list. Basalt Monolith isn't, but Basalt Monolith doesn't help you out as much. Anyways, not in this deck, it wouldn't. Kind of go through this real fast, trying to make this one really quick. I have 4 Planeswalkers. Chandra, Torch of Defiance, Chandra, Fire Artisan, Chandra, Alkalite of the Flame, and then, of course, Tibalt. 2 of them, these 2, are for getting creatures. These 2 are for doing damage and getting cards in your hand. So if you're able to get them out in any way, shape, or form, use them to your ability to cause mayhem and wreck damage. Jeweled Lotus, I already told you, is in the deck, and the other artifact is Skull Clamp, because when you get some of these cheap 1/1 elementals out there, you can put Skull Clamp on and get another 2 cards, which is awesome. Let's go through enchantments real quick. Enchantments, these are going to cause damage, and if he's out in play, they're going to cause more damage. So Circle of the Flame, I'll let you read it. No, I'm just kidding. Does 1 damage to each creature during their upkeep. It's actually 3. Not creature. Whenever a creature or flying attacks you or planeswalker you control, Circle of Flame deals 1 damage to that creature. And then, of course, Sulfuric Vortex, 2 damage to everybody during their upkeep. And, of course, no one can gain life. Blood Moon. Doesn't do damage, but it sure makes your opponents pissed when they're playing some utility lands and all of a sudden they're all mountains. Which helps you out, because mountains are great. Roiling Vortex. It stops people from gaining life, but you have to pay into it. It's this first part. It says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex does 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex does 5 damage to that player. That hurts you when you cast this one, but that's okay. It's all right. You're going to take 5 damage, but you're most likely not going to cast that if Roiling Vortex is in play. Valakut Exploration has landfall, lets you look at extra cards and cast them if you really can. Experimental Frenzy, kind of on the chopping block right now, but you do get to play when you're out of cards. You still get to play, so Experimental Frenzy, there is a need for it in some cases. Curse of the Bloodletting, this one's kind of fun, but normally by turn 5, the game's kind of over. Enchanted player, if they get this on them, does deal any damage they take is going to have double damage. And then, of course, Mana Barbs. This one's fun, especially when he's out, because for you, yeah, you're losing a point every time you tap a land. Tap to win land, cause you a lightning bolt. Mana Barbs, for every time they tap a land, it does 3, which is awesome because it's a red source, and he helps that out. So, some sorceries. Now, the whole purpose of this deck between the instants and sorceries is to clear your opponent's field and then take your creatures and attack. Yes. So majority of these spells are for hitting your opponent's creatures, though you can hit your opponent. So if your opponent is, let's say, just a creatureless deck, they're just gaining life somehow, or they know that they got to take this out every time it comes out, you can use these cards to just, well, use them as anything like a bookmarker. No, I'm just kidding. You can use them to hit him for 3 or hit him for 2 or hit him for, use it for what they're for. Normally in competitive, at least in competitive Highlander that I play, you start off with 30 life. Yes, granted, you're only going to get hit with lightning 1 time, but there's actually ways of doing that more. What's going on with my camera? But this one, you're hitting your opponent, a creature for 4 and your opponent for 3. All the creatures. Oh, wait, no. Is this creatures? Yeah, 4 damage to target creature you don't control. Has overload for 6, which does all creatures that you don't control, so it's board wiping them. Vandal Blast does damage to your opponent's artifacts. Light Up the Stage has Spectacle, which is hopefully what you're going to cast it for instead of 3. But it says exile top 2 cards of your library. Until end of turn, your next turn, you may play those cards, which is also awesome. And then, of course, Blasphemous Act. This is going to destroy all creatures. Just everybody's. But sometimes you have to do that. Okay, and the instants. Burst Lightning, Spike Field, Lightning Bolt, Magma Jet, Shock, Searing Blaze, Lightning Strike, Incinerate, Flame Spill. Yeah, kind of Soul Seer. I'll set that one off to the side. Cosmic Storm, sometimes Risk Factor. Skewer the Critics, Rift Bolt, Frostbite. Those are going to be the board wipes card. I'm sorry, your opponent kill cards. These can hit your opponents and or your opponent's creatures. A Braid, unfortunately, can only hit the creatures, but it does destroy artifacts if you need it to. Thrill of Possibilities, is, of course, is going to let you draw 2 cards. Now, I saved this one aside because this one's job is actually paramount to what you need to do. So you're attacking, you're clearing the board, but you know that the biggest flaw this deck has is if they have indestructible creatures, you can get past them, you can go around them, you can fly over them, whatever, but indestructible creatures are hard to get rid of, and there's not a lot of exile in red. So Soul Seer, 2 in a red, says Soul Seer does 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. So you're going to hold this. I mean, unless they put out a card that you really have to get rid of, you're going to hold this just in case they have an indestructible god, just in case they got indestructible beast, whatever. They put indestructible on something. You want to get rid of it. So you're going to hold this for the most part. Did I just mess up my own cards? I sure did. Okay. Creatures. In CMC cost, 1. Okay, Grim Lavamancer, Goblin Arsonist, Fervent Champion, Blister Spit Goblin, Get to Lava Runner, Scorch Spitter, and Fanatical Firebrand. Hopefully you get one of these in your first hand. You don't have to attack, though you can, like with Fanatical Firebrand, definitely attack. Scorch Spitter, definitely attack. Get to Lava Runner, attack. This one doesn't have haste, but these two, if done right, will have haste. This one doesn't have haste. Ooh, this one does. Ooh, does 1 damage when it dies, and Grim Lava Master is just kind of nifty. So hopefully you get one of those in your first hand, and you get to do some shenanigans in the first round or two, or first attack or two. First turn or two, sorry. Drop 2s. Kari Zeb, Chanda Pyroling on the chopping block. Runaway Steamkin, Thermal Alchemist, Storm Blood Berserker, Emulation Shaman, Harsh Mentor, Magmatic Channeler, Young Pyromancer, great for getting drops out, and Electrostatic Field, great for doing a little extra damage. Now, I stopped these 3 because these 3 are the fun cards. This one says discard a card, exile top 2 cards of your library, then choose one of them, and you have to play that card this turn. So this is a great way of keeping at least 1 card in your hand during your turn. If you don't cast it, it's gone. Harsh Mentor and Emulation Shaman, both basically, whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, Emulation Shaman deals 1 damage to that creature, which is great because he actually does 3. Harsh Mentor does the same thing, except it's 2, and it costs, it's actually 4 damage. His cool benefit is if you pay 5 into him, Emulation Shaman becomes a 4/6 creature, gains menace until end of turn. So you have a little mid to late game activity in this deck, but I wouldn't count on it. Normally mid to late game, if you're letting it go that long, they're going to win. You better hope that you can burn them out fast. Bone Crusher Giant is a 3-drop, but he has the Stomp instant. Goblin Chain Whirler with him is beautiful because he comes into play. He's a 3/3, sure. He does 1 point of damage to every creature and all your opponents, but with him out, it's 3 damage to every creature, 3 damage to your opponent. So it's awesome. Gutter Snipe is cool because it does damage when you cast instant or sorcery spell, which is basically a weaker version of Torbrand. Chandra's Phoenix comes back to your hand once you damage your opponent with a instant sorcery spell or something that your Planeswalker does to him. Chandra's Spitfire. Great card. Both of these have flying. Whenever an opponent is dealt non-combat damage, it becomes a +3 until end of turn. Rampaging Ferocidon is great because it stops them from gaining life, or it stops everybody from gaining life. And it says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, Rampaging deals 1 damage to that creature's controller, which with him out is actually 3 damage. Annex, this is just your big beat 'em down stick. Just get him in and beat him down. Hellrider, he does damage to everything. He says haste, and whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to the defending player, which is actually 3, which is great because if you have 4/1/1, let's say elementals attacking, it's actually each one of them is going to hit, even if it doesn't hit him. It's going to do at least 3 points of damage with him out, and then of course he does 3 damage per for each one that you're attacking with. Ox of Agnos costs 5. Actually, if you do the exile cost, he actually has cost 5 and 8 other creature or cards out of your graveyard. But when he comes into play, you get to draw 3 new cards. You have to discard your hand, though. And then, of course, when he escapes, you get a +1/+1 counter, and he becomes a 5/3 creature. Inferno Titan and Chandra's Incinerator. These two are basically big beat 'em down sticks. They come into play, they beat them down, and your opponents quit. Hopefully, when you watch this, you can see the beauty in the deck is just meant to attack, cast spells, do damage, and let the damage just add up. Just add up. Tons of adding up damage. Well, with that said, if you have any questions, I hope you'll leave a comment down below. This is the fourth time I've done this deck tech. I think I've done it the fastest this turn. But if you can, leave me a comment down below. Very much appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's amazing. I'm leaving that platform. I am going to go to Rumble. I like Rumble. If you have any questions, thank you for commenting. And I hope to hear from you soon.